So we're on the doorstep of week 2 of the NFL season, which means it's time to take a look back at the week that was week 1. And how about that, huh? We're in September, fall is around the corner, and football is here. The time just flies right by, doesn't it? So let's do that. Let's talk about week 1 and what we saw around the league. Starting off with the Thursday night action, Xavier Worthy gets 2 touchdowns in his NFL debut to help lead the Chiefs past the Ravens 27-20, although it was this close for being a whole lot more interesting at the end. On Friday night, the NFL's venture, its first one into Sao Paulo, Brazil, saw Saquon Barkley in his Eagles debut come away with 3 combined touchdowns. Jordan Love was lost late in the game due to an MCL injury, and the Green Bay Packers lose to the Philadelphia Eagles 34-29, and sure, that's going to put a little smile on my face. But a couple of, it's sometimes ugly, but still interesting and competitive, compelling matchups to start off the week. Now we shift over to Sunday. Chris Boswell connected on 6 field goals, including 3 from 50 plus, to kick the Steelers past the Falcons 18-10. Josh Allen threw for 2 touchdowns, ran for 2 more, as the Bills got past the Cardinals 34-28. But hey, we saw our first dynamic kickoff return for a touchdown by DJ Dallas in that game. So there you go. When does a win not really feel like something worth celebrating? When it's Bears football! Because once again, that style of play saved the day for the Chicago Bears. You get a block punt for a touchdown. You get a freaking pick 6 off of a boner by Will Levis, and the Bears celebrating like it's 2006 again. They come back from 17 down to beat the Titans 24-17. Gerard Mayo in his NFL head coaching debut gets his first win as the Patriots hold the Bengals offense in check. Woof, rough performance by them. Patriots win 16-10. Speaking of debuts with new teams, yet another notable one, Joe Mixon going for 178 yards of offense, and the Texans get by the Colts 29-27. That looked like that was a fun game that I wish I could have watched in full live. C.J. Stroud versus Anthony Richardson, Joe Mixon going for big yardage. What a bunch of fun that one looked like. And that could be a battle for years to come in the AFC South. Bryce Young looked like Bryce Young, which equals not good, terrible, really shitty, whoopsie daisies. The Panthers keep pounding already for that number 1 pick. They are determined, by God. The Derek Carr and the Saints roll 47-10. The Dolphins scored 13 unanswered points in the second half to speed past Jacksonville 20-17. You like what I did there, huh? Fuck you. Sam Darnold was solid in his Vikings debut. Danny Dimes still sucks, and Minnesota owned the Giants 28-6. They blew the skull horn all over their asses. J.K. Dobbins rushed for 135 yards and a touchdown as the Chargers bolted past the Raiders 22-10. The Seahawks forced 3 turnovers to ruin Bo Nix's NFL debut. Seattle beat Denver 26-20. And I would like to report an assault in Cleveland. And I know your first thought is, what did DeShaun Watson do this time? Well, apparently he did do something else a few years ago. But no, I'm talking about how the Cowboys pulled out their 6-shooters and just blasted all over the skid marks 33-17. That was a woof, brutal performance at home for Cleveland. Baker Mayfield had a big-time day. Mike Evans adds 2 more touchdown catches to his building Hall of Fame resume. And the Bucs broadsided the Commanders 37-20. David Montgomery runs it in OT as the Lions get past the Rams 26-20. Another return to Detroit for Matthew Stafford ruin. And then the Monday night game saw Jordan Mason fill in for Christian McCaffrey, which apparently his post-game comments created some controversy. I knew I was going to start on Friday. Oh, did you really? Why was that not reported? He had a really big day. The 49ers beat the Jets pretty comfortably, 32-19. And good luck, Jets fans. It could be a very long year for you indeed. In terms of some of the stud performances we saw in week number 1, I go back to Baker Mayfield. 24 of 30, 289 yards and 4 touchdowns. Certainly looks like he found his new home in Tampa Bay. Saquon Barkley. I could have went with him and Joe Mixon, right? They both had huge performances. So leading their teams to victory. I'll also go with Jordan Mason. 28 carries, 147 yards, and a touchdown. Not a bad day's work if you can get it. In terms of wide receivers, I got to go with Tyreek Hill. He was the star of the day. He had 7 catches for 130 yards and a touchdown, but his detainment for a moving violation before the game was big news around the league on Sunday and still is being talked about now. So he had a big day in a variety of different ways. And then in terms of defensive and special team units, it's got to be the Bears. He had a block punt TD, a pick 6. They forced 3 Will Levis turnovers, got 3 sacks. It was a big day for that defensive unit, no question about it, and one that the Bears certainly needed because their offense was about dick. Shane Waldron, Luke Getsy. It's like the fucking Spider-Man meme where you've got 2 Spider-Mans. That's what it felt like to me. But anyways, those are some of the stud performances in week 1. In terms of winners, Kansas City Chiefs come out, unlike last year where they lost to Detroit in week 1 in the opener. They beat the Ravens here and looked okay doing so. Certainly have a lot of things to work on, but that's a big win for them out of the gate. Similarly with the Houston Texans to go on the road, beat Indianapolis, get a divisional win to start off. Joe Mixon with the massive day, heading in the right trajectory for the Texans, no question about it. And then the Detroit Lions beating the Rams at home, getting another victory over Matthew Stafford, certainly had to feel pretty good for them. In terms of losers, the Cincinnati Bengals. Like a lot of people projecting, and for good reason, the Patriots being a team that could contend for the number 1 overall pick and saying, not so fast, Carolina. You got to keep pounding because we're coming. And you go out there and lay that fucking egg offensively? Woof. Then you've got the Carolina Panthers. What more do I really need to say? They lost 47-10. When you're looking for, hey, even if they lost, but maybe Bryce Young in the offense comes out and looks competent. They look functional. They look like something you would see from an NFL team, then they just basically played like the 2023 Panthers and played like dog shit. And then, of course, the Cleveland Browns for a variety of different reasons. I mean, they play in a shithole of a city that smells like Cleveland. And then they get mollywopped by the fucking Cowboys. And then they have to remember all that they traded away to get DeShaun Watson, the massive guaranteed contract they gave him with all the future dead cap money that it has. And oh, by the way, he sucks. Bad day at the office for the Cleveland Browns, which brings me to the 2-minute drill for week 1. And a lot of different directions I could go. I could go the Tyreek Hill situation. I could talk about how many offenses look kind of putrid and what that represents. Dak's massive contract extension that he signed right before the game. But I'll go with DeShaun Watson. Like, at what point in time is it just not worth it? It was a dumb dick deal to begin with. Desperate teams do dumb things. And that's what the Cleveland Browns did. They thought Baker Mayfield wasn't the guy. At the time, I agree with them 100% on that portion. But they went into the DeShaun Watson situation with their pants down. They were so desperate to get him, a guy that hadn't played the previous season. They gave up the fucking farm in terms of draft pick currency to go get him. Then, in order to facilitate the deal, DeShaun Watson holds all the leverage somehow in this fucking situation when he should have had little to none. And the Browns, again, just fucking out the keister as he ripped them off. And now, you see the results. He hasn't been the season leader in passing yards for the Browns either. There's 2 years in Cleveland. That game on Sunday, he looked god-awful. And now you've got more reports of potential alleged sexual assaults back from his time in Houston. And believe those to be true or not, it's just like where there's smoke, there's got to be fire at some freaking point in time, you would have to imagine and think. And if you're the Cleveland Browns, you're starting to stare down the barrel of something that will go down in history along the lines of a Herschel Walker trade in terms of just how one-sided it was. And you could argue here for the Browns being far more disastrous than the Herschel Walker trade was for the Minnesota Vikings. Like, it's not even close. And maybe there's a good moral to the story here of be careful of how much you're willing to sell out your principles for short-term gains or for football wins in this case. It feels like karma came to collect on the skid marks. Their chickens came home to roost, and they deserve every bit of it. They probably can't wait to figure out a way to get out from under this DeShaun Watson debacle. Because if you were going to make this deal, he needed to be an elite quarterback. Because unfortunately, if he was playing, people would eventually not give as much of a fuck. And you say, bullshit, they wouldn't. I say Big Ben and Ray Lewis, come holler at your boy. Look at how their shit kind of got swept under the rug. Why? Because they played at a high level for a long time. DeShaun Watson sucks. Not only is he not elite, he's not even higher level NFL starting quarterback. Right now, he's not even average NFL starting quarterback. He's below average starting quarterback that we really feel like should be sitting his ass on the bench. And if a lot of people had their druthers, he wouldn't even be playing in the damn league. And shit, if he keeps playing the way he's been playing, he's not going to be in the league much longer. Way to go, Skid Marks. You hit that one out of the fucking park.